Why are local television commercials so bad? They're awful, and we all know it. We all see it. We all make fun of them, but why do they continue to be made? In this episode of Midwest Mindset, we are going to answer that question, why are local TV commercials so bad? And I'm going to give you 3 things you need to do, or maybe not do, so that your commercial doesn't suck too. Welcome back to Midwest Mindset, the podcast that makes marketing simple and easy to do. I'm your host, Matt Tompkins of Two Brothers Creative, where we want to make your marketing easy with the Easy Box. You give us 30 minutes, we give you 30 days of content, and we post it for you on all your socials. All of them. Yes. Joining me in the studio here today, we have the other brother of Two Brothers Creative.
Oh, is that me? That's me. That's my cue.
Austin Anderson.
That's right. I've upgraded.
I've been replaced.
You've been replaced.
There was a ceremony. You missed it.
Oh, okay.
The other brother, Myerden McHugh. Myerden's in the studio. He's punching up the buttons and the knobs. A lot of gizmos and gadgets in there. And last but certainly least, give it up for my blood brother.
Blood Brothers.
Ben Tompkins.
That's
Benjamin
what
Tompkins.
I wanted the company name to not be Two Brothers. I wanted it to be
Blood Brothers.
Blood Brothers.
Yeah. But then True Blood came out, and it was like, marketing, branding. We're like, we can't be identified too closely with vampires.
Yeah. Do you ever just stop and think how we're all just full of blood?
Yes.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Did you know that blood is actually blue until it touches the air?
I don't think that's true. I think that's an urban myth.
I think science.
Get out, Austin.
I don't know.
Spreading misinformation.
You're not a scientist. That's misinformation.
That was what, my kid learned it, in school.
I know. I've heard that too, but I don't think it's actually accurate. But I've heard it's green.
Is it? Like ooze?
Yes. I love how in Nebraska here in Husker Nation, everybody says, we all bleed Husker red. And I'm like, isn't not everybody's blood red?
Yeah. A lot of losing.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of bleeding. They can't stop the bleeding now. Get a tourniquet. Okay, so this is a question I think, this was made relevant to me again last night. Have you guys ever watched local high school football? I think they call it Thursday Night Live, and they have like a Friday night version.
But I want to.
I've seen clips of when I was a teacher. I would see clips of it.
Yeah.
And it's pretty low production.
Yes. First off, you never see the announcers.
No.
You only hear them. And one of them is a recognizable voice, but they never tell you who they are. There's not one point where they made an introduction. So it's just some guy talking like this. I don't know who taught sports announcers or newscasters that this is the way we want to hear them talk, because it sounds ridiculous.
It is. Where did it come from?
I have no idea.
When I watch the news, I think that. I'm like, who started this?
Yeah.
And why, when they would go to school, they're like, this is the way you talk, or you will never
Why am I
get hired.
ending my sentence like this? Just talk normal. Like, what is the deal? What's happening?
Tell us the origin.
So I'm watching it, and they have all of these like just shameless plugs from advertisers on there, and I don't blame the advertisers, these companies, because like they're hitting the market. I think it was like a West Side football game, so they're hitting the rich. They're in the rich families.
Oh, yeah.
Nebraska Furniture Mart ads, Ortho Nebraska. I mean, these kids are gonna get hurt. You might as well get the plug in now. So I don't blame them at all. But the way it was just presented was really cheesy. It was just a plethora of local television commercials. In fact, the entire halftime show was just one long 20-minute commercial break. And I saw so many
back to back,
and they would cut back to the field, but it would be a shot of the field. And then they would cut down to the field with this pre-recorded paid advertising. So they have like somebody from NFM there with the guy on the sideline. And he's like, so tell us why Nebraska Furniture Mart is so amazing. And then he would just do his obviously rehearsed lines. And like the guy that they had from NFM, and I love him at NFM, but it's not a knock on him at NFM at all. Like, I mean, I love all their stuff.
Because they don't even need to do that. They're just doing that to support.
They're just doing it to support. So it's not a knock on them. But whoever it was that was doing their public relations, he reminded me of like, those inflatable arm guys they have at like car lots.
Yeah.
Wacky inflatable arm guys.
Those scare me.
If a wacky inflatable arm thing was embodied as a human being, that would be this individual. His just was talking like this. And it was just
He's a terrifying looking person, is what you're saying.
Yeah. So anyhow, we're watching this, and they kept cutting to all these local commercials. And that gets to today's topic. Why are local television commercials so bad? And I have a few reasons. I'm not alone in this, right? Let me just clarify that. Because I'm pretty sure everybody sits and just makes fun of these terrible local television commercials when they come on their TV, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't watch local television all that much. I feel the same. I mean, not to get off track, but about local radio too. I just, with all these streaming services and everything, I very rarely plug in and tune in to the local networks.
Yep. I'm the same way.
But they've always been bad since
They've always been, and there's been no change.
Yeah.
Usually the reason this happens is because what TV stations will do is say, hey, if you come do an ad budget with us, we'll produce your commercial for free.
Right.
That's usually how it starts. And that is my first tip here. So why are local television commercials so bad? That is because, number one, you're letting a news station produce a television commercial. Tell me what in the world, just because they own video equipment, that's really the only thing they have in common with like a marketing company.
Yeah.
They have no clue how marketing or advertising works. All they have is, you're listening to the people who talk like this and think this is a normal way to talk. And you're going to let them brand your company.
Shoulder pads are still in fashion. Mm-hmm. Coming up tonight at
And
8.
we can't have more than one woman on the screen at one time. Like, it just is dumb. Like, it's so archaic and backwards. I mean, I love anything that's low budget Hollywood, which is why I love local news broadcasts, because they're still so they're on the cusp. Even when they have money, they still can't just pull it all together.
Yeah.
You know? And it's just fantastic to watch. It's like watching a train wreck.
And
or a car
walking into
accident.
one of the buildings is like walking into the 1980s.
1995.
It is, yeah. I mean, well, that's if you have people there anymore. Because some of these, like KETV studio now, their new one in Omaha, where we're based out of, our hometown here, Omaha, Nebraska, Midwest mindset. It's super nice. Like, it looks like you're in like CNN headquarters.
Oh wow.
I know WWT has a new studio. It's pretty nice. I haven't seen the finished version. I was there when they were doing construction. I broke in, stole some things, but I haven't seen the finished version of it. I would say that this studio that we're sitting in here now is the next nicest studio in Omaha behind those two. And they spent millions of dollars. I can tell you right now, we did not. So you don't have to have a huge budget, I guess is my point, to have a high quality in product.
But just because you have a high quality studio doesn't mean that you know how to produce high quality and effective commercials.
You got to have. It's like they don't have anyone that has an eye for it, even for their studio.
So here's my first tip: when you're doing a commercial, even if you're getting it done for free, because everything good quality is free, right? We've all discovered that to be true.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If it's free, there's a reason
It's going to last forever.
There's a reason that hot dog is free, folks. It's not real meat. But I think the first tip is, don't listen to a television news station when it comes to producing what is going to be a direct reflection of the quality of your product and service. This is a direct reflection of your company. So think of this. The first impression you have, or that you give somebody, is going to stick with them likely forever. And so they're sitting there watching television, and they see a multi-million-dollar First National Bank commercial come on, and then they see a multi-million-dollar, Mercedes-Benz commercial come on, and then they see yours. And yours is, it's just terrible.
It's hard to even explain.
It's hard to explain how bad it is without seeing how bad these are. That is going to be what they think of you and your business. And it's going to cost you so much money in the long run to try and turn that around. Now, I think there are some ways around, like if you use humor, if you're like, hey, we're in on the joke with you about how bad this commercial is.
Yeah.
But don't listen to a news station to make the final decision on how you're portrayed to the rest of the world. Because that is, in a lot of ways, it's permanent.
Well, it goes back to the point that we had a couple episodes ago of just because you're good at one thing, just because you're good at reporting the news, doesn't mean you're good at coming up with effective commercials.
I mean, news stations I don't have a clue how to run a news station. You wouldn't put me in charge of running a news station. And I would agree with you. I'd be the last choice to do that. But news stations don't know shit about marketing. They don't know shit about advertising. And I don't even think they know what human beings actually enjoy just based on the way that they talk. And you can tell. I love going to different cities. It's like every Walgreens and CVS is exactly the same. And every news station, the way they cover the news is all exactly the same.
Yeah.
The same way they speak, the angles, the shots, the cutaways, all of it. It's like it's just rinse and
Who
repeat.
is going to break the mold?
I know.
Why has no one strayed from the format?
I don't get it.
I demand answers.
I really don't understand. And they're like, why are our ratings down so much? Oh, it's blame the streaming services. No, maybe it's because you're putting out a shit quality product and it's just like the same since 1985. I don't understand. I really don't get it.
That is, if you have a commercial made today by a news station, it will look like 1985.
Yes. And there are commercials from like 15, 20 years ago that businesses are still using.
Oh, yeah.
So we were meeting with Eric Crouch. We were doing some videos for him, and he was telling us about this commercial he did like 15, 20 years ago. They're still using it on the air as a commercial. So like we have like, 25-year-old Eric Crouch in these videos with him. I think Tommy Frazier was in them.
Right.
And
people are going, man, he's aged
like,
well.
wow,
Yeah, he
Eric
looks really good.
great.
Yeah.
What is the skincare treatment program he's using? One of my favorites though, because like here's a local news station. They're gonna do two things. They're gonna let you run too far with this, and I'm sorry, you're great at running a business. You don't know anything about marketing yourself. We think we do because we're like, I know what's funny, I know what's entertaining. And if marketing was just that, if it was just coming up with a creative idea or a funny catchphrase, you'd be right. You'd be great at it. But that's just 2% of the equation here. And so they let business owners run with these ideas that an expert on marketing advertising would tell them, would coach them, say, listen, here's the end result of what could happen here if you go this route. How about this option? Let's flesh this out before we just do what happened in my favorite local commercial, and then I want to hear about yours. My favorite local commercial features Tommy Frazier, and I think he's the owner, I don't know his name, of Lebanon Mattress Factory. And so in this commercial, and it may still be running today, Tommy Frazier, two-time national championship, legendary Nebraska football player. They're doing the traditional cuts like, this mattress is 50% off, this mattress is this mattress is this. And then at the end, they cut to this notorious scene where it features the owner of Lebanon, I assume he's the owner, old guy, looks like an owner, laying in a bed, like pillow behind his head, laying right next to Tommy Frazier in the bed. The owner doesn't say one line of dialogue.
He's just laying next to Tommy?
Staring at Tommy with the biggest, creepiest smile on his face. Like, and then Tommy delivers some line and he doesn't do it that well. And I don't blame Tommy. He's not an actor, he's Tommy. But
was his line, I forgot protection.
So bad. And then after, the editor didn't cut. So then there was like a long pause. So like Tommy goes, yeah, stop by my friend Levita today. And they both look at each other. And then it ends. It's like it's just awkward. It's weird. There was another one I saw last night. It was this guy. Apparently there's someone in the Nebraska defensive line. I guess his nickname is the Polar Bear.
Yeah, Polar Bear.
Yeah. So I'm not familiar with this guy.
Is he albino?
Yeah. He's a white.
Is this the
Just a
SOS
big guy?
commercial?
We're just Polar Bear.
Yes. Have you seen this?
Yeah, I've seen this one.
Yeah. So this guy, I'm assuming it's probably, because this is what it is too, and that's my next tip here. You don't need to be in your own commercial. Like, hire a spokesperson, hire an actor. Come on, we're cheap. We don't cost a lot of money. All right. Find someone who's charismatic within your company. The owner does not need to be in the commercial. And we see this, I'm making the assumption here, I could be wrong. What I would guess happened here is they were like, I'm going to put my wife and my kids in this video. They're sitting in the living room and there's this fake snow and they're fake shaking like it's cold and it just looks really cheesy. And then the polar bear jumps up with a horrendous polar bear head thing. Not a mask, but
like a mascot.
Like a mascot head helmet.
Yeah.
And he jumps up going, "Arr!" And then you cut to the polar bear who they do this cheesy, he slides up onto the screen. So it's not, to call it animation would be being far too common.
I've got to see
He
this.
just slides up and he goes, "Hey, everybody calls me the polar bear." And then I'm like, whoa, hold on a second. This is the first I'm hearing of this. You're the polar unless your nickname is so synonymous, Johnny the Jet Rogers, okay, everybody's calling him the Jet for 50 years.
Yeah.
The polar bear?
Yeah.
Did you name yourself?
Did anybody validate this nickname? No.
I think it's the Husker. It's a Husker football. Inside the Husker football community, it's well known.
Okay.
I think it's playing on the notoriety of Husker football. He's a Husker football player. So that's what I think what they're trying to go for.
But you could do that without the commercial looking like crap. You don't have to also make a crap. You don't have to make a crappy commercial. You can have fun with it. I'm not saying you don't have fun. I'm not saying you use a spokesperson, like even if it's really bad acting or it's just, hey, they're a famous player or whatever, celebrity. We just want them in the commercial.
Yeah.
That's fine, but you don't have to make it such a low budget thing.
I think part of the problem is that it's the sales the salesperson that's selling the package, and then they help put together the commercial, even though they know nothing about it. And I only know that because I was with a company and building a marketing department for them, and one of the local news stations, reached out and same thing. Hey, if you buy this many spots, we'll do your commercial. So then I started going, okay, well, what would the commercial be? And we started going back and forth, and she was giving me all these ideas like, okay, yeah, we could do that and this, but she didn't know, she had no experience whatsoever in how to establish shots or what things would look like.
Tell a
like she's
story.
just in that, that's just part of her process. Like you got to sell it, but then she's got to help like produce this
She's a
commercial with
creative
no
now.
experience.
Yeah.
But I think on the other hand, it's about, we've talked about perception before. We've talked about authenticity and the storytelling aspect. Yes, I think you can easily produce a bad commercial and it's totally ineffective and does far more damage to your company than good. But then there's also a certain level of authenticity and genuineness that comes from these people are a small business trying their best. It's obviously they don't have the budget that NFM does or that First National Bank does. So knowing where are you coming from, what is your attempt, like what are you trying to really do with this, and stay within that lane, because you can be cheesy, low budget, even if it's not humorous. But if you're authentic and people believe you, then it can be just as effective as any other commercial.
If you're saying we're in on the joke with you about how low budget this is, no, that's true. It is. I think people have in their mind they're saving what? I mean, you get a producer, I don't know, $3,000 to $5,000 around that price. You could probably get a decent production done of a commercial. You're spending what, $20,000 or more on an ad run? Like spend the extra few $1,000s to have somebody who knows what the fuck they're doing to produce this thing, because otherwise you're putting that other $20,000+ in the actual ad spend for the schedule at risk. You can have fun, you can be authentic, you can be cheesy, you can be in on the joke. It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to have flyover drone shots like First National Bank or cornfields, and you don't have to spend $1 million. But it also doesn't have to be this just crap quality thing that is, it is far too often, it just becomes, you become the butt of a joke.
Yeah.
You're not in on the joke with people, you're the butt of the joke.
Right. They're laughing at you,
Yeah.
not with you.
You know.
And then, to spend, very little money on a commercial that you're going to put tens of thousands of dollars behind to push out, if you really think about it, is nuts.
Well, I think, and that's my third tip, like cheap isn't cheap. And free isn't free. We've talked about how social media, people have this misconception, well, social media is free, and so I'll just post on social media. Social media is not free unless your time has no value. So if you're going to add up the amount of hours you're going to have to dedicate to social media management on a daily and weekly basis, and then you say, okay, what if you spent that 10, 15, 20 hours a week getting a couple new clients? Like, you're losing a lot of money. So you're spending money if you're spending time. That's just the bottom line. And so cheap is not cheap. It's going to cost you far more to take the cheap route in the short term than the long. If you invest money on the front end, it's going to pay off dividends in the long run, because you're going to have a commercial that's going to hold up for years. And so you can put thousands and thousands of dollars behind this thing. You can really invest in this long term, and then you don't risk becoming the butt of the joke. So cheap isn't cheap, free isn't free. And I would say a bonus kind of tip here, don't listen to the news stations. Hire a spokesperson or an actor or somebody on camera. Don't be yourself. That we see a lot with business, the owner, and he's on camera, and I've been at these shoots.
Oh, yeah,
and
me too.
You think
I've
the
done-
final take that they actually approved to get into the commercial was bad? Just imagine if you saw all the other takes, where it's like, "Hi, I'm reading a thing in front of me, and I'm incapable of human emotions." Like, and is that how you want to be represented? to the rest of to all of your potential prospects and customers.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get that at all. Like, you're doing far more harm than good.
It really is that, like, the perfect example is Will Ferrell in Talladega Nights, where all of a sudden they're fine, they're talking, the camera turns on, and they're just like, what am I doing with my hands?
Yeah.
Where do I do it? They just lock
Well,
out.
there's a level of, you want to be careful in telling people not to be themselves, because you do want them to be themselves, but you also want people to be honest with themselves. I think that's, if you're honest with yourself, be honest that you shouldn't be on camera. You shouldn't be the person. You can hire somebody to represent, or maybe you are really good on camera and you can be yourself. You don't want to be fake. I don't think that's the recommendation we're telling people.
I think it goes back to like the pitch, how they're selling this, because they're playing to the business owner's ego when they say, we'll put you in the commercial.
Right, exactly.
And so as the business owner, we think, oh, me? Oh, shucks. Like, really? I don't know if I could do that. That'd be cool. And they go home and we talk about it with our spouse, and we're like, they want me to be in a TV commercial.
And then
it's
their kids
not
are
on
like, you're going to be on TV? That's
It's
so
not on the
cool.
business owner. I think it's unfair to put that on the business owner.
Right.
That is an injustice on the part of
They're kind of being
the person
manipulated.
producing they are definitely being manipulated. Because if the person actually cared about the end result of this video that they're creating, they would say, they would not pitch them to be in it unless they were naturally could perform, have charisma, and just actually be themselves and read a script on camera.
Right.
If they can, if that's not their thing, that may not be their jam, that's fine. There are so many other options, because
And it's hard too, I think, for the salesperson that sold it, because they don't want to lose the sale. So even though they might think this person is going to be terrible on camera, they go with it, and they're like, no, you're doing great. Because they don't want to say, oh, you're doing bad, and then have that person go, well, I'm not doing the ad spend.
You want the customer to be honest. You want the people producing it, the business you're working with that's producing the commercial, to be honest as well. I mean, honesty is a huge factor in producing effective marketing.
yes.
And unfortunately, just honesty in general will hurt some feelings.
And it's avoided. And when we establish our core values, I put like honesty is at the top. It's number one. And there are a lot of times I've had clients where we just like, I don't think we're the right fit for you.
Yeah.
And I'll help you find what is, but I think
It's so key to be able to do that.
Local
Did that take
television-
you a while though? First, like just over all your years.
Well, yeah. When I first started out, like you have to, you're saying yes to everything, and you learn really quickly, because those clients that you knew, you had a hunch this isn't really a good fit, they end up being, the whole relationship gets soured in the long run. And so you learn some hard lessons that, like, I have to be honest with them. It can't just be about making a quick buck every chance I get, right? And you'll make more money in the long term if you commit to that approach. But yeah, a lot of agencies in marketing, a lot of television stations, I think probably 100% of television stations, they do not have the best interests of the business owner at the forefront of this at all. No. They just want to make a quick buck. They want to get you to pay for ad time on their station. They're desperate for cash because Ben's only watching streaming services and people aren't watching local television anymore. I mean, they are desperate to get your money. So they're going to manipulate you, and they're going to tell you whatever they need to tell you. And they're going to go back to this old playbook of, listen, it's free, right? It's free. Can't beat that. We're going to produce for free. And then you're going to dump 20, 30 grand.
And if it's terrible, they're like, well, but you didn't pay
you were in
for
it. You were in it. So that's the reason it was terrible. It's not on us. If they really gave a shit about the business owner and they really wanted to actually help them increase sales, grow their business, they would be honest with them and say, listen, like, we would love to have you like sample. If you want to be in the commercial, we'd love to have you read some scripts, but we have actors on standby, a couple $100, $300 for a day to get this person to come in. They are a professional at doing this. And so they're going to come across in the best possible way, because that's my last tip here. It's like kind of a bonus one. So far the three we had: don't listen to local news stations, cheap isn't cheap, free isn't free, and hire a spokesperson or an actor unless you are naturally good at doing that. The last thing is you have to keep the customer in first place at all times, because I don't think I've ever seen a local TV commercial, even national commercials make this mistake, where they are saying the customer is the hero of this story. The business is the guide here to help them and call them to action, give them a plan, show them here's what you need to do. Business owners, and you see this on, probably 80% of all websites, we make it all about us. And commercials are no different. We make it all about us, the business, and we don't make it about what our business can actually do for our customers. And that is where you're going to win. And it's an easy thing to do. It's just a mindset shift.
Right.
You know, you have to say that people don't care about your business. They just don't. You care about your business, right? You know, that's because you have to. People don't care about your business. They care about what you can do, what your business can do for them.
Right.
You know?
Because they just want to know, how are you going to help them thrive and survive?
Mm-hmm. So that's why you see commercials that you initially you think they don't make sense, like drug commercials, where it's just like happy people frolicking in a field, somebody doing, you know, sidewalk chalk art, and you're like, what does this have to do with
STDs?
What does this have to do with shingles? Which, by the way, is it just me or the shingles commercial is getting a little bit terrifying these days?
Shingles in general is terrifying.
It's like they're really getting very ominous.
One in three
Shingles
people.
lays
In death?
Yeah, like, shingles lay in the darkness and they could come out at any moment. Like, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But the reason they do that is because what they're doing is they're painting a picture of the end result of using that product or taking that drug. That's what they're doing. And that's why they work. And so if you're trying to come up with creative ideas, I would just default back to the simple premise. All right. What is it? What's the problem your business is solving for your customer? And then how can you paint a picture in any medium, your website, a story you tell, a blog you write, a social media post, a television commercial? How can you paint this picture of that end result of your solution to that problem? And when you do that, you're going to win, because everybody tries to be cute, funny, creative. And when you're having a television station, a news station produce it, it's not going to come across as any of those things. We're going to laugh at it, but for all the wrong reasons. And I don't see a lot of people keeping that kind of mindset at the forefront.
The salesperson too, a lot of times, is the one that's writing the script. They gather all the information from you and from the website, and then they write it. But they're a salesperson. Like, that's their talent. That's their craft. Yep. And then they just write something. And then, because I've read them personally with this, I'm like, what is this?
It's the equivalent of we only do this with like marketing and advertising, where we think, because we just let people do it, right? We say, oh, you're a salesperson? Yeah, sure. You do the copywriting. Right. You write the script for this commercial. Yeah, let's do it. We don't do that in any other area. I don't call a plumber to come change my tires. You know, I don't hire an electrician to come replace my roof. You know, I mean, I do hire Ben to build all my human cat trees, because he's good at building human cat trees.
They're so comfortable,
among other things. But
the best.
Human cat tree is the new running reference point, I think, here in the podcast. But yeah, we don't do that you don't call your plumber to perform surgery on you. Why are you letting some person who's an expert and good at sales do something they have no fucking clue what they're doing? They have none. And that's why these commercials start off, you have no guidance. They do not have your best interests at heart, and they're just trying to get your money. That's really all they're trying to do.
And you know, what I found interesting once when I was working for a radio station cluster is that I thought it would be best to have a copywriter who's good at writing commercials and scripts and telling stories, write them for all the sales agents. You know, so they do the sale, then the copywriter gathers it, writes it, and does that. And then, but what it ended up happening is that a lot of these salespeople, they wanted to write the scripts, because that was the fun part too.
Everybody wants to be creative.
They want to be creative, but they weren't creative.
Yeah.
So they didn't want to let that go.
Or not even that. I wouldn't even go set, because everybody's creative.
Everybody, yeah, you're right.
But they just don't know how to write. They don't know how to write. They haven't done any sort of training or practice or anything. They don't know the rules of the game that we're playing here. And then that's why it turns out bad. It's not that they couldn't write.
Right.
They just don't know how to write. You know?
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, no,
right.
No, I think that's
that's right.
All right. For Austin, for Ben, for Myron, I'm Matt Tompkins. Thank you so much for listening to Midwest Mindset. Don't forget, if you want the easy answer, the easy button, if you will, to your marketing, it is the Easy Box. Right now, the link is in the show notes. You can get started for free. You give us 30 minutes, we give you 30 days of content. We do know what the F we're doing and what we're talking about, so you have that going for you as well. We are not a news station, but I am going to close out the podcast like this.